Before you work on today's lesson, I want to give you a little introduction to some things that you're going to see today. Today's lesson or today's activity, you're actually going to work on an activity today. Today's activity has a couple of goals. One goal is to go back in the last couple of lessons, 10.6 and 10.7, where we talked about how to calculate the volume and the surface area of a rectangular prism and practice those calculations a little bit more. The second thing that this activity is going to help you practice is something that we call spatial reasoning or visual reasoning. And that is being able to visually reason with a geometric diagram. In real life, we have a lot of things that are three-dimensional objects, but we look at them in two-dimensional form. So we actually have been doing that for the last couple of lessons. You've been looking at some drawings of rectangular prisms. So they're drawings of 3D shapes, but the drawings are drawn flat on your paper. So sometimes we like to take a 3D object and make it 2D. So you're going to look at something today that's called a net, and it's also going to introduce this idea of a net. So I want to introduce that idea to you before you work on today's activity. So this is a little rectangular prism, so you can see it. So it's one that I made. And we know that the surface area of a rectangular prism is if we take all 6 of the sides, so the top, the bottom, the front, the back, the left, and the right, and we find the areas of all 6 of those sides and we add them up. That's the surface area. So when we did this yesterday, we drew out each of those sides. So we drew out the top, which is the same as the bottom. We drew out the front, which is the same as the back, and we drew out the right, which is the same as the left. So we drew them out flat so that we could find the areas and add them all up. So another way you can do that is by making what's called a net. So a net is this idea of taking this box and cutting it apart so that all 6 sides lay flat. So I actually made this box from a net. So I'm going to unfold this box so that you can see what it looks like if we laid it flat. So I'm going to take these 2 sides and I'm going to fold them up. So there is the top. So this was the front, the left, the right. And then I'm going to kind of unroll it. So there's the back of the box and there is the bottom of the box. So we have top, front, back, left, right, back. So now this lays flat. So this is now a flat piece of paper. So that flat piece of paper is what we call a net. And we can use the net to find the surface area because, sorry about the ruckus in the background, that's my cats. So you could see all 6 faces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you could find the area of each of those rectangles and add them up, just like what we were doing yesterday. It's just a different way of representing the box. So it's basically making the box lay flat. Now, the interesting thing about nets, I'm going to put this down. I'm holding it up to the camera. So when I put it down, it's going to look smaller because I've put it all the way down on the table, but I want to leave it there. So the interesting thing about a net is that you can have a bunch of different nets that represent the same box because you can cut the box open in different ways. So this is the exact same box as what we were looking at before, but this one has been cut apart a different way. So this one, now we're going to cut off the top and kind of cut it this way. And then we're going to cut it this way. So there's I'm going to kind of go this way. I'm going to turn it around. So here's the top and the right. So this is the front. So now we're going to fold it down. So there's top, right, front, bottom, back, and then there's the other side. So these 2 sides are the top and the bottom of the box, and then the front and back of the box and the left and right of the box. So you can see that this net, again, I'm going to put these down. They're a little bit small. I'm going to put them side by side. I'll zoom it in a little bit, make it easier to see. So these 2 nets look really differently, but they are really different, but they actually fold up into the same box. So you can cut the box along different edges to kind of unfold it differently. But if you look, it does have all 6 sides still in there. So there's 2 sides with an area of 6, those 2 or these 2. There's 2 sides with an area of 8, there and there, or there and there. And then there's 2 sides with an area of 12, here and here, or here and here. So all 6 sides are represented. We just cut the box apart differently. So today's activity, you're going to be practicing finding volume and surface area of a rectangular prism, but you're also going to practice some visual reasoning You're going to have to go back and forth between the net, which is basically the cut apart version of the box, and the actual folded up rectangular prism version of the box. So you have two problems where you will be given a net or a flattened out box, and you have to figure out what the length and the width and the height are. Excuse me. And label them on the 3D drawing. And then you have two problems that you're going to try where you have a 3D drawing and you have to try flattening it out and draw me what it might look like flattened out. So there's lots of different ways you can flatten it out. Remember, these both make the same box. So your goal on the two problems where you're flattening out the box is just going to be to make me one of these nets that would work. So that is what you're going to do today. So I wanted to introduce that so that when you see these nets, you're not looking at that and getting confused about what it is. So it's just a flattened out version of the box. You're going to practice going back and forth between this and the folded up version of the box in today's activity.